from A Course in Miracles today. We're reading about this passage, the coming of the guest. Why does an easy path so clearly marked it is impossible to lose the way seem thorny, rough, and far too difficult for you to follow? Is it not because you see it as the road to hell instead of looking on it as a simple way, without a sacrifice or any loss, to find yourself in heaven and in light? In heaven, I read that as the parasympathetic side of the nervous system in this book. Until you realize you give up nothing, until you understand there is no loss, you will have some regrets about the way that you have chosen, and you will not see the many gains your choice has offered you. Yet though you do not see them, they are there. Their cause has been affected, and they must present where their cause has entered in. The body does not change. Oh, and this was one of my favorite quotes of all time from this book. Stability to those who are confused is meaningless, and shift and change becomes the law on which they predicate their lives. And that quote is just like, you can bring the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The body does not change. It represents the larger dream that change is possible. And stability to those who is confused is saying that the reason I think this book is written on dementia is because we forget all the time that we are spirits inhabiting a body. And the book talks about how when we fall into illness or into conflict with others, we are only seeing ourselves as a body, and we limit ourselves to what it means to be truly healthy and to be at peace, which is just to feel good and to have the energy rolling through us. When we believe that we're just a body, we have this sense that we're in control of things, and that when we commune with other people, it's only through the body and not through the thoughts in our minds, and every time you have a thought about someone, they hear it. So if your relationships are all turmoil, it's helpful to look at what are my thought processes around this person and this relationship. Anyway, there is no change in immortality, and heaven knows it not. Here, yet on earth, is a double purpose, for it can be made to teach opposing things, and they reflect the teacher who is teaching them. The body can appear to change with time, with sickness or with health, and with events that seem to alter it. Yet this but means the mind remains unchanged in its belief of what the purpose of the body is. The body that is asked to be a god will be attacked. And that's placing idols and too much importance on the way that we look and how we're perceived, because its nothingness has not been recognized. And so it seems to be a thing with power in itself. As something, it can be perceived and thought to feel and act and hold you in its grasp as prisoner to itself. And it can fail to be what you demanded that it be, and you will hate it for its littleness, unmindful that the failure does not lie, and that it is not more than it should be, but only in your failure to perceive that it is nothing, yet its nothingness is your salvation from which you would flee. And this kind of also goes back to our hormones are created by our thoughts, and what we think about our body, our cells, and everything is hearing and understanding what we think about it. So when we have hateful thoughts about our body, which a lot of times we do, that is perpetuating our hormone state. As something is the body, asked to be light's enemy, replacing what he is with littleness and limit and despair. It is his loss you celebrate when you behold the body as a thing you love, or look upon it as a thing you hate. For if he be the sum of everything, then what is not in him does not exist, and his completion is its nothingness. Your Savior is not dead, nor does he dwell in what was built as a temple unto death. He lives in light, and it is this that makes him Savior unto you, and only this. His body's nothingness releases yours from sickness and from death. From what is yours cannot be more or less than what is his. And it kind of reminds me of the fact that, about before, blood sugar is belief. If we're constantly stuck in a state of stress, our body, all the trillions of tiny cells, they pick up on that. And the book talks about how we can never be in a state of peace and forgiveness if we're constantly forgetting that we are so much more than these bodies that we're in. And so I think that it's so beautiful. And then it kind of just I just thought about the aging process. I always think about the aging process and like how some people age so well and other people age a lot faster. Of course, there's like a lot of lifestyle habits, but they say a lot of longevity is related to the quality of relationships that we hold. And I don't think it's possible to have good relationships out in the world if we don't have one with ourselves. So, like, every time you go look in the mirror, just like remember who you are. My neighbor told me, she's a lot older than me, she's in her 80s. She said, Rachel, remember who you work for. Like, there's nothing outside of you, and I keep thinking, these things keep popping in my head, but it was like, how are you supposed to be happy when you care so much about what other people think? Someone makes a comment or says something to you that you don't like, and all of it's to be taken with like a grain of salt, as like it's just data points. It's just, you're a scientist collecting data and constantly meeting your reflection out in the world. So if somebody tells me, like, for instance, like, you never take accountability, you don't show up on time, you don't reach out and call, like, you know if this person, if they're thinking that I don't, they're not even, it's not even about me reaching out and calling them per se. It's about the spiritual connection that I have. So do I hold this person in a good place in my spirit, in my mind? Because we connect with people, like, we connect with people over space and time. It's been proved by quantum physics, if we needed proof. But when you hold a good relationship in spirit, whenever I think about someone and I think loving thoughts toward them, I am holding them in a space of health. And that's what it talks about. It says, don't hold your brother in bondage. Whenever you think of someone and you have ill thoughts about them, you hold them in bondage, and it's only holding yourself in bondage because we forget that people are just a reflection of ourselves. So it says, even though your brother or someone outside of you, even though they may be experiencing negative thoughts about themselves, ignore that. Don't hold that for them. And particularly, it talks about sickness. Don't hold someone in that state. See them as a healed spirit, as a healed body, as someone who's filled with love and joy. Because if we're not seeing that, then we really are only seeing the negative and the worst about ourselves. I think it's like a psychological thriller almost, but I think it's really beautiful. And yeah, I'll leave this here, but I hope this was helpful for you in some way. And just remember, like, stability to those who are confused is meaningless, and shift becomes the law in which they predicate their lives. That to me has also been in times in my life where it's knowing that it's time to walk away and to have separation from people, from other people. Because sometimes when you're up close and you can't get out of those negative thoughts, like, that's when the relationship needs to end. And I've always thought, I'm a twin, so separation, I love long-term relationships. I value deep long-term connections. I think they are so beautiful, and like, you're just lucky to have them and to share your experience like that. But if you're in a state where you cannot get out of that negative thought loop and you can't communicate to that other person, and like, you're just living in divorce, you're living in separation, like, that is so sad. To me, I think about that a lot. But also sometimes it's better just to take separation and to, like, heal the thoughts that you have about this person from a space that is separate. So anyway, I'll leave this here. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this is helpful to you in some way. Just remember that we don't see ourselves accurately. And yeah, I'll catch you later.